Hello. Welcome, everyone. Oh, you're going to join us.
Y'all, it's hot.
It is hot. We're on day 55, I think, of no air conditioning.
What's up, y'all? How you doing? You guys, I'm tired.
Elaine says that it's sunny in Washington. I think that's one of the 3 days of the year that it's sunny in Washington.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So,
all right.
How y'all doing?
Mm.
All right. I asked where they're watching from. Terrence says Facebook.
Terrence is funny.
We got Kentucky.
Yes.
Wiley, Texas. Okay.
Aiken, South Carolina.
All right. Oh, Terrence really says Virginia. Okay.
Yes.
Tramaris is here.
Hello, fam.
Davises are here. So
I don't know what we talking about today. I'm gonna try and
it's 108 where Rachel's at in Texas.
That's what I need in my life. That is exactly what I need in my life.
Oh gosh, no.
So you know what I forgot to send you was the link. So I let's just
you sent me a lot of stuff. I got a lot of tabs open here.
I know.
So we're gonna see what this foolishness is. First of all, before we start though, I want to say just a little bit of a word. Got some sad news today about a gentleman that a brother in the Lord that you had a wonderful conversation with a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And he very suddenly passed. We were really looking forward to more conversations with him and just maybe as a resource on the show.
Yeah, I just wanted to extend condolences to the Waller family. Jason Waller was someone who followed the ministry, but then was also had received his master's, I believe it was his master's, from Regent, and was someone that I was able to speak with regarding doctrine and the
liberation theology,
the history of the church and things like that. And just a nice gentleman. And so he actually passed away on the 2nd, and it was made public shortly thereafter. I want to say on the 3rd, but I didn't find out until last night. And a woman that I am associated with on Facebook, April Chapman, she actually she honored him on Facebook today. And so it was good to hear her stories about him. She definitely had like a relationship with him, but he has a wife and he has kids. And so
you just had a wonderful Zoom conversation with him, and wasn't public. It was just, we talk to people all the time as resources, and just very sudden and sad. And he was in the Anglican church, and he was getting ready to become a deacon in a couple of weeks, and he was on a track to become a priest. And so just very, very sad. So so the other thing is we have matching shirts.
We do. Oh, I love it.
Okay.
I have to go this way. I don't even know if you can see it. Yeah, it is overexposed, but mine looks just like hers. It's just in white. It says "The devil is a lie." And our friend Stephanie sent these shirts to us. Thank you very much. Yes, you really know my heart. Yes, the devil is a lie.
We also want to make sure that you stay connected with us. We always wake up every day to the reality that, social media is an important tool, but it's not always our friend. And so the best way to stay in contact with us is by registering for our digital newsletter that we send out every Sunday morning. They'll give you quick access to all the resources that we've posted during the week. And just in case something were to happen, because of our perspectives and points of view being a little controversial to some, we know that, we might not be on social media forever. So if you want to stay in contact with us, that is the best way to do it. Go to centerforbiblicalunity.com and click on the button there to get connected with us.
Yeah, just scroll down just a little bit and it's right there. Now, I wanted to add some clarification to a blog post that I did last week on, was it a blog post or was it it was a Facebook thing?
And
Something I
it
wrote.
was a reel, an Instagram
Oh,
reel. Yeah.
yes. So the Instagram reel where I talked about how do you know if some of the or any of the critical social theories are being practiced at your
Mhm.
school? And people were like, "Yeah, I can agree with that. Maybe." And then it was like gender switch days. No, that's not happening.
That's not real.
No.
So let's give a little context. People can go, if you're not on Facebook or Instagram, you can go on YouTube. It's there. It's called a short on our YouTube channel at Center for Biblical Unity. So it's a short, like 47-second video, and you gave three ways to spot that the critical social theories might be in play
Yeah.
in a child's school.
And one of them was revisionist history. I don't know what the second one was. Or maybe that your child or their teacher could get in trouble for misgendering a student. And then the last one was gender switch days, and people were like, that's not happening. What is this? We've never heard of this. I've been a teacher for 99 years and I don't know anything about this. And I'm like, well, okay, hold on. Gender switch days were originally a TikTok challenge. And that's how it started. It started with like this challenge and challenging the students at your school to show up in, switch gender clothes. But there's no pushback from a lot of the teachers about this, from the administration. It's just like, this is what they're doing. And so
boys show up in dresses.
And I mean like fly dresses. So I'm like, dang, where'd you get that dress from? Like, you wasn't sneaking out the house in them heels.
Yeah. And from what I saw on Twitter, like sometimes young people go out and get a special outfit for the gender switch days.
Yeah.
Girls dressing up as boys. So if people go on Twitter or TikTok, you can see lots of pictures of
this.
this.
You can just Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to those who were concerned and thinking that I was misrepresenting the social theories, that is not the case. Gender switch days are a thing. My concern is that because administration is not, offering any kind of information to parents, your child can just show up to school and everybody's, switched, or your child may bring clothes in their backpack and you don't even know that they're switching. Whatever it is, it's like we have to be aware of what's happening in the schools. We have to be aware of what our children are encountering, whether they're participating or not. And I would say that if a school is allowing these things to occur, because it's not just at, the school down the road, the high school down the road that's rogue, no, like this is a challenge to schools. So your Christian school, your private school, whatever, this is a blanket challenge. There's no rules and regulations that say, well, if you're in this kind of school, you cannot participate. So I just wanted to say, hey, this might be occurring and you might not be aware of it. Another thing that might be occurring that you might not be aware of is a situation called dead naming. A dead name is a name that someone used to go by before they came out as transgender or usually transgender, but they are now changing their gender, they're changing their identity. And so you don't want to dead name somebody. So Krista, if you started to go by Paul, I hope you don't start going by Paul, because I'd be very awkward here in the office. But if I accidentally called you by your dead name of Krista, that would be very offensive. It would be very rude. There are people who are making videos and stuff like this. And, it's like a threat now. If you dead name someone, if I call you Krista when you have explicitly told me to call you Paul, even if it's by accident, then there'll be these repercussions and things like that. But parents, you have to understand, like, this is what your kid is experiencing. And the pressure that comes with that. I have to remember that Sally really is not Sally anymore. Sally is now Patrick. And, I have to remember to call Sally Patrick all the time. But they're only in 7th grade. And I got to remember my algebra homework. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is. It's a lot.
So,
what happened to Pajama Day? Girl, Pajama Day been gone. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I have a couple thoughts about this.
Go ahead.
There's another comment here from Elaine. I feel like if we did this in my Christian high school nearly 20 years ago, it would have been hilarious, like Spirit Week and dress up stuff. Now we would be very concerned. I've actually thought about this. But I think I'm such a weirdo. I'm kind of against the whole idea of just dressing up in general to go to school. I never liked pajama day. I never let my kids participate in pajama days.
Oh.
I never let them wear pajamas to church when they have pajama day. I just think that and I know I'm the old woman in the room, and that's okay. All the young moms can come for me, but I think that it sets up a confusion of boundaries that to me seems inappropriate. And it conditions the child that it's okay for people to see me in bedroom clothes when really that's something that should only be at home or for my husband. And I'm kind of against the whole idea of normalizing deviant dress things in public. This is why I'm against, like, my children will tell you, I have a strong aversion to people who wear pajama bottoms in public, in the airport, in Starbucks, at the mall. I constantly would comment about it to my children to tell them, if you ever do that, I will shame you, because I think it confuses the boundaries of private things versus public things. And I know I'm probably weird about that.
Yeah,
but that's
okay. I mean, you do you, boo.
Somebody agreed with me.
I lived
Trimaris agreed with me.
My whole college life, I lived in either high heels or pajama bottom pants. I don't know.
In public?
Yes, I would go to class in my pajama bottom pants.
But I just think that, like, it sets such a precedent of, like, to me, one of the things we have to teach our children is how to present themselves. Because, like, nothing magical is going to happen when they go to work and they have to present themselves. Like, you have to train a child to present themselves properly.
But if your child gets to college and they don't know how to present themselves, you have other problems. I feel like that's something that you learn during your elementary and junior high school years.
I agree, but when the school condones this kind of dressing chaos, to me it creates confusion, and that's why I never let my children participate in that.
I can see that. I'm just saying, by the time I got to college, I knew how to dress.
Yeah.
I had pencil skirts and suits and heels, but I also appreciated being able to live on campus and, kind of rolled out to my 7 a.m. class, and then I'd roll back in.
I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I don't know if this is real or not. There was a thing at a high school in Hazard, which I think must be in Kentucky because she lives in Kentucky, where they had a drag pageant featuring boys in lingerie giving lap dances.
For some reason, I think I heard about that. That wasn't recently, though. I heard about that, I want to say, a couple of months ago. It might be something completely different. I think
Mel says no crazy hair day. No, I didn't let my kids do it. I just didn't. I just think that school is for learning, and I wanted them, church is for the Lord, and I just didn't ever let them participate in that stuff. I just felt like it sent a confusing message. I was that mom.
Yeah.
That was me. So
it's okay. Someone else is confirming. Auntie Laura's confirming about the school in Hazard. It was October 2001.
Oh, okay.
2021. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Keep your hairline and you'll be fine. Keep your hair in line and you'll be fine.
All right. Okay, we can go on to the next thing, I guess.
So that is what I wanted to say about that. That yes, these gender switch days are real. I didn't just make them up and, trying to come, against the critical social theories in ways that are just unjust and unfair. So
what's next?
What's next is, okay, I don't know. I feel like I have many things to go on, but I just got off Twitter, and I should not be on Twitter, but especially because I feel like Twitter in the Twitterverse, there's another level of like petty mode that just comes out many times. But has anyone heard of the twerking senator? And okay,
This isn't real.
I should not call her the twerking senator. It's a hashtag called twerk4 that she actually, I believe she started it. And there is a video that she made on the beach somewhere. She's from Rhode Island.
We're not going to play a video.
No, we're not. We
Okay.
will not today. The devil is a lie.
Okay.
But she started like I feel like a campaign called Twerking4. And so there's the twerking for justice, twerking for
Whoa. What?
You have the pictures.
But I need more context. This just sounds weird and deviant.
It feels weird and deviant.
I don't understand.
You can twerk for trans rights. You can twerk for I don't know why anyone would want to, but it seems very.
I don't understand this.
I know there's not a lot of context around it. All you see is her literally standing on her head twerking.
But help me, Rhonda. I just, is it this one? Let's see here. How does twerking help the human have safe housing?
It doesn't help the human have safe housing.
I don't understand.
It's more like, I guess instead of raising a fist, you're raising your
backside.
That's the better
I don't
word.
really know what twerking is, but Monique says I don't need to.
Yeah, you don't need to look up twerking.
I asked her if I needed
to. I'm gonna Google it. No, don't Google. Please don't Google twerking.
She said I'll get scary videos. This one, there was another one you sent me here. Twerk for abortion justice.
There's twerk for trans justice, twerk for all of these things.
But draw the line for me. I don't understand.
I can't
connect those dots.
I cannot. I feel like it is the new symbol of like, instead of the raised fist, we're gonna raise our bums to twerk.
Just to raise awareness about XYZ cause?
Yes. I actually,
Mike Davis says just step away.
Yes, you do. You just need to step away, because here's the thing. It's number one, she's a Democrat senator in Rhode Island. She's 28. Her name, why is her name escaping me right now? Oh, Tiara Mack. I believe she is part of the LGBTQ plus community, and she is definitely an advocate for it's called comprehensive queer. I wrote it down somewhere. Comprehensive queer, inclusive, pleasure-based sex ed.
I think we have a tweet. We have a tweet to that effect.
When? Where?
I think it's.
Well, I'm trying to connect the dots for people on some things. One. Oh yeah, really excited for the House sex ed bill hearing later today. Teaching comprehensive, queer, inclusive, pleasure-based sex ed was a highlight of my time teaching. And so I was like, that's a lot of words. What in the world is this? And so I went down
So she's the genius behind the twerk for justice?
Yes.
Twerk for whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm old enough to remember that when you had to shake your moneymaker to get a vote and approval, you were deemed a hoe. Like, that word probably shouldn't be on, in cyberspace, but that's what you were. But today it seems like that's what you do to call for justice.
This is a good way of saying it. Sexualized activism.
Yes, it is. And that's what this whole thing is. So I went on a little rabbit trail to find the national
sex education
standards. And this, if you Google the future of sex education or the national sex education standards, what the
K-12.
This is K-12, and this was from 2020, I believe. Actually, it might be 2018, but it's not from like 2022. I actually think it's 20.
Kevin's asking if I know who Sir Mix-a-Lot is. I don't know what that is.
You don't know who Sir Mix-a-Lot is?
No.
Oh, well, you know.
Is that a who or a what?
It's a who.
But not a hoe.
No, we don't need to say that word again.
Okay. Well, you said it.
It was an accident. It was a oopsie, a slip up.
Okay.
But that's true. Like you used to be a whore. I wish my mama would catch me
What would
shaking
Pauline
my
do?
tail for somebody's approval.
If you were posting videos of your backside on TikTok, what would Pauline do? If you were,
I can't even
in
think about it.
sixth grade.
I can't even think about that. Like I have no like way to comprehend, just because.
Would she yell at you?
Pauline would beat me. Like I would not have, there would be no phone, no computer, no anything. Because you don't shake. But I mean, here's the thing. It's not even, she wouldn't have had to worry about that because she raised me with a level of self-respect that I don't think that would have been a concern for her. And not to say that, every parent who raises their child with self-respect don't have to worry about their child shaking their tail, but there was just a level of self-respect that was taught in my home of, it don't matter. If they don't vote for you, they don't vote for you. If they don't like you, they don't like you. But you're not going to shake your tail to make somebody like you.
More calls to get Pauline on the show.
Stop it. So you guys, I have this whole thing, and it talks about the sex standards and what a child should learn by each grade level. And I highlighted some of these because I don't think people really understand what schools, like how the districts have broken things down and what they really want to teach your kid and what they want your kid to leave understanding by certain targeted markers. And so for example, by the time a child leaves second grade, they should be able to list medically accurate names for body parts, including genitals. Okay. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I think if you're going to know your body, you're going to know, but I also think a mom and dad would teach that to their child.
Again, these are the school standards.
Yeah, these are the school standards. Let me see here. Discuss the range. They should be able to, by the time they leave second grade, they should be able to discuss the range of ways people express their gender and how gender role and stereotypes may limit behavior.
This is in kindergarten to second grade?
This is when they leave second grade, this is what they should be able to do. So between kindergarten and second grade, this is what they're going to be taught. And just like when you take standardized testing to be able to know if you can go to the next grade, if you're proficient, these are the things that they're going to be looking for regarding comprehensive sexual education to see if your child is proficient.
Proficient in identifying gender fluidity?
Potentially. Let's skip ahead to 3 to 5, grade 3 to 5. Identify credible, and there's a lot here, so I'm only hitting a few. Identify credible sources of information about puberty and personal hygiene.
I have a question about that, is because it's like there's no definition of credible, because the school may think they're the only credible source.
The credibility is defined by the school,
not the parent. I'm like, that is so vague.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's much like the information that's been floating around social media about like this is misinformation, or how do you know what information is real, where they're going to set themselves up to be the source of information. Here's one that concerns me. All of this concerns me, but identify trusted adults, including parents, caregivers, and healthcare professionals whom students can ask questions about puberty and adolescent health. And while I think that could be a good thing potentially, when teachers are now being trained to be groomers instead of just simply educators, and because of things like SEL, teachers are being set up to be the psychologists in the classroom or the therapists in the classroom, what are the possibilities that they will teach and help your child to identify, here's a safe person. They agree with all of these things. These people are not safe because they don't agree with these things. Grade 3 to 5, by the time they leave 5th grade, they should be able to explain common human sexual development and the role of hormones, including romantic and sexual feelings, masturbation, mood swings, timing of pubertal onset.
Masturbation in the 3rd grade?
3rd to 5th. So by the time they leave 5th grade, they should be able to explain these things. Okay. Might not come in 3rd grade while you're, learning long division, but by the time you're in 5th grade, They should be able to explain that gender expression and gender identity exists along a spectrum. They should be able to
Wait,
demonstrate.
reread that one. We're still on 3 to 5th.
We're in 3rd to 5th.
All right, reread that one.
Explain that gender expression and gender identity exists along a spectrum. Okay. Now, here's the thing with activism. And I know many people say that the schools are not promoting activism. Schools do not teach your child to be an activist. But there's a whole the devil is a lie. People are lying to you. This whole category, and I don't know if you can see it here, but this last category here is all about advocacy. That's what it's about.
Grades 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Now the second, let me see, grades K to 2, they didn't have any teachings for advocacy, but grades 3 to 5, their advocacy should look like being able to demonstrate ways to promote dignity and respect for all people, people of all genders, gender expression, and gender identities, including other students, their family members, and members of the school community. So for them, it would look like, hey, how do I treat somebody with respect, regardless of what they call themselves, regardless of what they believe their gender is, regardless of whatever. This is what advocacy looks like for the 3rd to 5th grader. But advocacy shifts the older they get and the farther along they get within the comprehensive sexuality class.
Lauren's on the stream. She's a teacher in the Northwest, and she says, "Preach, Monique. Parents need to be involved. This move to remove parents from the equation is so wrong, so wrong. The agenda." And I just want to encourage parents, stay involved. Do more than just like when your kid comes home at the end of the day. How was school? It was fine. Okay, moving on. Like, I get it. You're tired. You've been working. Things are hard. It's hard to communicate with teenagers. They always don't know their own thoughts. But staying engaged is going to be important.
Yeah, here's another one, grade 3 to 5. And this one is very important. I'm going to break it down in just a minute. Explain the relationship between sexual intercourse and human reproduction. This is important because sex and human reproduction go together. What I personally believe, I'm not trying to say this is a word from the Lord, this isn't prophetic knowledge or anything like that. What we will soon see, and I think that something that you've said that we already see, is that there will soon be a disconnect from sex and human reproduction. So later, in many places within this booklet, it talks about things like masturbation, anal sex, oral sex, all of these different things that your child is supposed to be able to understand and explain, discuss, and all of that. Now, they may not be able to explain that and discuss that, and that's not a requirement in the 3rd to 5th grade category, but they are learning to disconnect the two. And that we will see that when they get into grade 6 to 8, and then it breaks it down from like 9 to 10, and then 11 to 12. There's also an introduction of the power component.
We're still on grades 3 to 5.
No, this is grade 6 to 8.
Okay, we've changed now, finally.
Yeah. Yes, Mel. Fieri is
I was going to come back
so
to that at the
important in this conversation.
Let's tackle that at the end of this discussion.
Then another thing is describe how power differences such as age, gender, socioeconomic status, immigration status, race, or unequal position, i.e. student, teacher, supervisor, employee, may impact relationships. There's a constant thread of finding the person who is safe, being able to identify the person that you can talk about these things with. Another thread through this is consent. And gosh, I can't find it right now, especially I believe it starts in the 6 to 8.
This. I don't know what that is, but maybe I don't want to.
Okay, give me 1 second. Consent is a thread throughout this document. And again, watch and see what's on the horizon, what's coming. The idea that as a child, if I don't give consent, then it's wrong. But if I give consent,
Then it's okay.
it's okay. And teaching children what consent looks like and how we consent and how we don't consent and things like that. So that means that if a 14-year-old and a 62-year-old, 14-year-old girl and a 62-year-old man, well, the girl understands consent. She gave consent. We have to understand some of the things that are just like words that sound very innocent right now, how they are going to eventually shift and impact our children in ways that are extremely harmful. Now, you were talking about the category called self-management. So just like there was advocacy, there's also self-management.
So again, we're in grades 6 to 8.
Describe the
6 to 8.
Describe the steps to using barrier methods correctly. So if you watched our show on Saturday, the All the Things podcast, we had an OBGYN on, and she was talking about abortion and things like that. But one of the things she quickly hit on, I think, was like condoms or something like that. But it's
methods.
different barrier methods to contraception.
But why would a 6th to 8th grader need to know that information?
Because there is an implicit assumption that your child is having sex. And if they're not having sex,
when
they
you're in
need
8th
to be
grade, you're like 13.
If they are not having sex, then they need to be able to be informed to help the child next to them who is having sex. But somebody having sex somewhere. That's the assumption. There's a couple more I wanted to highlight. 6 to 8, define racism and intersectionality and describe their impacts on sexual health. When we first started the Center for Biblical Unity, one of the main things that we pushed was the idea that the critical social theories are like a train. And when you get one, you get them all. You cannot disconnect this train. This is what we're seeing. You are seeing right now the linking of critical theory as being the driving engine, critical race theory right behind it, critical queer theory, child studies or child theory. You're seeing all of these linked cars. And I know people, when we first started, were like, y'all crazy. That's not it.
It's just about race. It's just about race.
And everybody needs to support critical race theory because America is the most racist country on the planet. And racism has been our original sin since 1619. Well, yeah, look now. Here we are just 2 years later, and we are no longer talking about race. Race gets thrown in. Race is a component. But what critical theory are we on? What critical social theory are we on? We're on like car number 5 and 6.
We were so far out ahead in this, and nobody believed us. Nobody was like, it's like, look, this is where this is going.
Okay, when they're in 6th grade, the advocacy, 6th to 8th grade, the advocacy looks like developing a plan for the school. You in 8th grade, you're going to develop a plan for the school to promote dignity and respect for everyone. Race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, differing abilities, immigration status, family,
the child's going to be an activist now.
Yes.
And help the school get a plan together.
Isn't it Ibram Kendi who wrote the book Activist Baby? Okay. Here it is.
It's just the woke baby.
Oh, he's got
the anti-racist
baby. There is a book called Activist Baby. I used to have it. I know it is. Grades 9 and 10. Describe what constitutes sexual consent and legal consequences of sexual behavior without consent. Again, there's the whole racism component. Describe the impacts of racism and inequality on sexual health. By the end of 10th grade, they should be able to differentiate between sexual orientation, sexual behavior, and sexual identity. Again, that means I can look like a woman, but perform a different sexual, from a different sexual orientation. I thought this was interesting.
So now we're moving into grades 9 to 10.
Yeah, describe the steps for how a person living with HIV can remain healthy. Oh, that was really interesting. Because there wasn't a lot of talk about different STDs in the earlier categories, but when you get to grades 9 and 10, 11 and 12, you see a lot more conversation on on talking about STDs. I think that's very interesting because I do believe that a life of promiscuity will lead to STDs.
This is an important comment here. Please note the use of the words such as dignity and rights, etc., to confuse and to make the abnormal and depraved normal.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, there was another one in here that talked about trans individuals and how to like participate with trans individuals, and it's just the higher you go, the worse it just gets. It just, yeah, but this is what they want to teach your children. And I bring this up because
So again,
this
we're
is
reading from this document called National Sex Education Standards, Core Content and Skills K-12, second edition, published by the FOSE. If you want to go Google that, you can regale your friends and family with the fun.
Yes, and I bring this up because the twerking senator, Tiara Mack, this is what she promotes. And so when your leaders are posting themselves with very little clothes on, standing on their head, shaking their tail, should we be surprised that this is also what they promote? There's such a lapse of morality in our culture and in our country.
Mel says our culture worships sex. So there's an infinite number of ways of meeting this human need, but without boundaries. Why? Because the fire, sexual activity, is out of the fireplace, marriage.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. So yes, there is that, and just the entire lapse in morality and the impact that it has on children. And it's like they are there's a conversation happening where the adults lapse of more, there's an intentional push to demoralize children younger and younger. Like, how old are you when you start kindergarten? 5?
5.
Yes. So there's an agenda. And I know people say there's no agenda and da 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 da. No, there's a strict agenda.
Yeah.
I was also reading some things today in why, abstinence conversations don't work. And this is why we have to have this comprehensive, queer, inclusive, pleasure-based,
demonic
sexual, teaching. It is very demonic. It is very demonic. There's no other way to put that.
Okay.
So along those lines, another thing that I saw, and I don't even know if it's necessarily along those lines.
Changing gears.
Yeah, changing gears. I'll say that. I'm trying to look for what I sent you on.
This is an interesting comment from Mel. Childhood innocence is part of perpetuating the patriarchy. So the Marxist revolutionists want to destroy this social construct in their view. I think this is an important comment because this gets at the why, and I'm starting to see this now on Twitter, where this idea of childhood innocence is looked at as being a social construct. It's a fake thing. It's something that needs to be torn down. It's something, that needs to be done away with. We're going to have Neil Shenvi on the show on all the things in a few weeks to focus in particular on queer theory. And, some of the questions that we have about how did we get to a cultural moment where drag queens are the center of the cultural conversation? I think we have to start connecting some of these dots because these are interconnected issues.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this comment. I want to go back to and have you explain this comment for everybody.
I wish I had my book here because that would be the most helpful.
So we need to talk for a minute also in this context about Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Lauren, if you're on the stream still, I'm curious if you've ever read this book or were forced to read this book in teacher school. It's really like a intersection of education theory, Marxism, and liberation theology. Um, and for many, it's kind of the foundational work that's guiding a lot of things, the framework that's guiding a lot of things that are now being implemented as principles. What are you
Sorry,
doing?
I was looking for my book.
Shall we wait?
Yeah, I mean, keep talking amongst yourselves. Go ahead. I'm here. You ain't never been lost for words before. Go ahead. You really gonna do me like that?
Mhm.
You's a horrible, horrible little person. Golly. Okay, go ahead. What was the comment?
Or about the Fieri. So explain a little bit more about him and his POV.
Well, he was a socialist, and so in looking at how I think the biggest thing to take away from him, and I wouldn't even, gosh, I'm trying to think of like the best way to sum it up, and I feel like looking in his book would have been the best way to do that, but I guess I can't. Looking at what it means to be defined as oppressed and what are they trying to free you from. So many times when we look at oppression, and it was Marcuse and another Marxist thinker that tied in the freedom from like sexual oppression, that people's main desire, their most human desire, was to be free sexually. So this is a lot of what we're seeing, a lot of this like
Mel says Foucault.
Yes, a lot of the conversation of being free sexually, having time away from work so that I can participate in the cravings and desires that are natural within me.
So Sheridan's on the stream. Oh, that's the wrong comment. Sheridan just popped on the stream, who just finished her PhD.
Hey girl, hey.
She said Fieri's book was referenced in just about every doctoral class I had for 69 credit hours of coursework. So my question, and Sheridan, if you know the answer to this, chime in.
Should call.
Yeah, chime in, because I'm wondering if I'm starting to see some tweets that are making me think that where this is heading is to deconstruct sexual boundaries for the child so that eventually the child can choose their own partners. And that's kind of where the trajectory here of where this is going.
But you have to understand,
to throw off like the oppression of sexual constructs and barriers.
I think that'll be a result of what happens.
Okay.
I think the main thing is kind of like getting rid of the patriarchy. It's getting rid of the social, what they're considering social constructs. I would call race a social construct. That's something made up. A parent is not a social construct. Having order and an organization within your society is not necessarily a social construct.
Sexual boundaries.
That's not a social construct. We see parents as being an ordained order by God. Like, we didn't make up parent-child relationship.
So when you and I say we think that race is a social construct, it doesn't follow from that nearly everything in society is a social construct.
Yes. And just because we can say that race is made up, that people came up with this concept of race, or you can call it colorization, and saying darker skin is at the bottom and lighter skin is at the top. Somebody made that up. They made that up for their own benefit. Where do we see anything like that anywhere before it like originally happened? We don't see that in scripture. We don't see that anywhere. Not every person participates that way, but what we do see is the parent-child relationship. We see the parent-child dynamic. If a parent doesn't care for a child, they'll die. So there has to be some form of
hierarchies.
Yeah.
Part of the created order.
Yes.
Not a social construct.
Yes. That's the exact word I was looking for. Thank you.
All right.
So we see this, but there is a decoupling of the need for that relationship like the need for the parent-child relationship within society. We're trying to decouple, we're trying to separate out who are the true leaders by like deconstructing hierarchy, deconstructing the social constructs that would create any kind of hierarchy. Patriarchy really does fall under the category of a hierarchy.
All right. One more comment and then we can move on here. I want to.
What they're moving to is to pedophilia. Yes, that
was not the comment I was going to do.
Sorry, but it is it does lead to that. The greater thing would be, or I think the greater reason or theory behind it is child theory. What does it mean to free the child from oppression? From
now, the result
of that will be,
desensitization to pedophilia, potentially, but that might not be immediately in their minds of this is what we want to do. They're thinking in their mind, we want to free the child from as an oppressed class.
Yes, it's like if I at 5 or 4 or 6, whatever, can choose my own gender. Well, how old do I have to be to choose who I want to sleep with? What is this magical age? And who determines that magical age?
Age of consent is going to start.
This is what I'm saying.
Social
Consent
construct
is going to be a big conversation. It's right on the horizon.
Okay, this is the comment I want us to make sure to mention from Whitney. I think we also need to encourage more Bible-believing Christians to take on public school system as a mission field. Teachers, administrators, board members. The other side is trying to convert the school to a temple of their beliefs. I agree. And being a public school teacher is definitely, I think the way to think about it is as a mission field. And that's some hard ground, difficult ground. We would love to see more churches rally around their public school educators and help them understand that it is a mission field, to think about running for school boards, to think about doing what you can to get more involved. This is not a withdrawal from society conversation. We're just trying to educate people and understanding the framework behind everything.
Yeah. And
okay.
The last thing that we want to talk about, you actually highlighted, which was I don't know where this restaurant
I can't play
is.
that one. It has bad words in it.
Okay.
But there's been a couple of videos on Twitter this week of people going into fast food restaurants. And there was one I sent you yesterday that was like, they were, maybe I can play that one if I don't play the sound.
Well, what I wanted to highlight in the one you sent me yesterday was that the girl actually twerks on the counter and it just highlighted so many things for me. I was like, oh, look, that's coming. It comes together.
All right, let me.
She is not as naked as the last person.
All right, let me put this here. We just won't play the sound because I don't want to, in case they use bad words.
Can people see it?
I'm going to put it up there right now. This is from the beautiful account called Libs of TikTok. It's just the gift that keeps on giving. So let me start it over here. All you see is all you hear is the sound alarm going off.
So this actually is a restaurant, like a fast food joint in
New York City.
And apparently these 3 girls who are extremely upset asked for like a packet of some kind of sauce, ketchup, whatever. And they told them they were going to have to charge them like $1.30, $1.50, whatever.
So they jump over the counter.
Yes, they jump over and begin to assault people because they did not want to pay for additional sauce. This is the crazy town we are living in. And then the girl in the black decides to start. Well, it's a little special, but we can stop the video now.
Okay.
But again, you got the twerk for justice. The crazy part about this, well, before I go there, There's another situation in New York where an older gentleman who owned a store, he actually killed his attacker. The guy came in, I don't know, I've seen part of the surveillance, like the surveillance camera video.
So a bodega
And
is a
bodega is like a little shop.
Yeah. So this is again in New York. Now the bodega worker is in Rikers, which is prison,
Yeah.
for on a murder charge because he stabbed a guy who was attacking him.
Yes.
I won't play that video because it's a little graphic.
It is graphic. I've seen it. What happens though is that when the video starts, you see the black guy in the braids aggressively like push and I think the shop owner or the shop worker is Puerto Rican, but you see him like really shove him hard, and like the guy kind of falls down.
Here's the guy that's in prison now.
Yeah,
he was the guy that fought back.
And
Puerto Rican. Yeah.
So then this gentleman gets up, and apparently he had a knife hiding like under the counter, and some kind of scuffle ensues, and he stabs the guy, and the guy dies.
So he stabs the guy that's
stabbed him in the neck,
attacking him. But now he's in Rikers on a murder charge.
Yes. Now I do want to say this. In commenting on this, I can only comment on the video piece that I saw. There could be more evidence waiting to be revealed. I have no idea about that.
Here's an update. Meg says that this guy's out of jail now.
Good.
The bail got lowered.
Good.
And he has been released, and the mayor is actually defending him. Well, that's pretty huge.
That's amazing.
Because their mayor's pretty progressive.
Here's the part that I want to highlight and talk about is felons are more and more becoming a protected class of people. Felons are.
Explain that to us, because that was new information for me.
So, or maybe a better word to say it would be an oppressed class of people. So when you see, I don't know how many of you have seen the chart that talks about like the matrix of oppression. So you see all of the different oppressed categories and who's doing the oppressing. So white people oppress like minorities and Black, Indigenous people groups, BIPOC, and what is the form of oppression that they are participating in? Racism. Heterosexual people marginalize or oppress the LGBTQ plus community, and what is the ism or the form of oppression? It would be some kind of like homophobia or transgendered type of oppression.
Let me help you.
Can you find it? Thank you.
I'm working on it. Let me help you here.
So people can actually get a visual of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Let me try to pull this up here. Our friend Neil.
Praise God for Neil.
Let me share it here so you can walk people through it. It'll make a little more sense. There you go.
Okay, so in the matrix of oppression, you have different social identity categories. How do people identify? They identify by race, sex, gender, sexual orientation, class, religion, things like that. You also have privileged groups and targeted groups. I am not going to go into the border groups today. We don't have enough time. But a privileged group would be someone who is white, someone who identifies or who is a biological man, not that they identify as a man, someone who is a biological man, heterosexual people, Protestants. But then what are the marginalized or the targeted groups? Well, for race, it would be minorities. For sex, it would be biological women. It would also be, if we're breaking down gender from sex, it would be the transgender, the genderqueer, intersex people, and things like that.
So this is the targeted social groups column here. Is what we sometimes call them marginalized people. So you're marginalized.
You're on the fringes.
Simply by being a member of a particular identity group.
Yes.
It's not necessarily about anything you've done or anything that's happened to you.
Yes.
You are just marginalized simply by being in this group. Okay.
Yes. So what we are going to see, this chart was created almost 20 years ago. It was created in 2007. We're 5 years short. So 15 years ago. What we don't see on this group or on this page are the additional categories that have been added to this. Those with mental health issues. Children have been added to this group. If a child is the targeted group or the marginalized group, who would be the
adults,
the people who target them, the adults?
Yeah.
Okay, this is what we're seeing. This is why this booklet that I printed out talks about finding a safe person, because the assumption is that many adults are not safe. But when we consider felons are going to be soon, I believe, part of the protected class or the marginalized group of people. I saw this in the Minnesota Department of Mental Health. They actually,
Minnesota
Psychological Association, not the DMH.
They identify marginalized groups. This is an interesting list. People can go Google it. But one of the groups on the list is felons, sex offenders, and so it's like, wait, what?
Yeah,
these are now in the marginalized.
They're in the
groups?
marginalized, and if they're in the marginalized groups, I'll take sex offenders as an example, and then I'll go back to felons. If sex offenders are considered a marginalized group and we need to free them from their oppression and their marginalization, well, how do you do that? Well, you create a special category for them, and this is where we're seeing what is there's an acronym for, it's not MAOI, that's something complete, that has to do with another form of mental health. But the adults loving,
MAPS.
Yes, it's
minor attracted
people. Yeah. Yes. So you'll see they're even developing their own category. Instead of calling them sex offenders, they are now minor attracted persons.
People. So they're gonna create now another row on that column of they're going to be in the marginalized group.
Yes. So then you have felons. If felons are in the marginalized group, how do we advocate or do activism on behalf of felons? Well, you can look at Angela Davis's model in defunding the police, defunding jails, and things like that. Not counting some crimes against criminals. We see this in California, where a criminal can steal up to $1,000 in merchandise, and we're not holding that against you. It's like, you know what, that's just a wash. You know, we're just gonna turn our head this time. You know what I mean?
Because they're an oppressed, marginalized class.
Yes,
they're poor. This is why they're stealing.
They don't necessarily have to be poor. You don't have to be poor to be a felon. And to say like, well, that's just reparations. It doesn't. You can be white. This isn't necessarily based on skin color. This is based on the class or category of people who are considered felons.
Okay.
I do think that you will see intersections though of race and criminal activity, or skin color and criminal activity eventually.
Elaine wants to know if they're going to have
twerk for felons. I'm sure it's on the horizon. Just give the senator another day or two. But when we understand that being a felon is going to soon become like this marginalized people that we have to allot a certain amount of money to every year, we will then understand why in certain states this person got was not held on bail, and then they were released, and they immediately caused another crime.
So this is why some people aren't getting prosecuted for doing major crimes. So basically they're turning crime into a means of achieving equity.
Potentially.
Jenny's asking.
Potentially. I have a lot more reading and research to do on felons as marginalized people.
So this is just something you're noticing is kind of on the horizon.
Yeah.
Bringing it to people's attention. This is not the exhaustively complete discussion
No.
of it, but it's just like,
Because
hey, watch for this.
yes, but I mean, just think about how many times recently you've heard of people who were just in jail 2 days ago and now they've committed, some horrible crime. Think about that guy who drove the car, I want to say
Through
the
the
car
parade?
through the Christmas parade. He was just in jail like 36 hours before that,
And
but
he
he
I don't
wasn't
think he's
held.
being prosecuted or anything for that.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't followed up with that.
I don't think that anything happened to him.
No, I'm sure he
The
killed
parade
people.
guy. No, I'm pretty sure nothing happened to him.
I have
Somebody
no
look
idea.
that up. Put
I
it in the
don't-
comments.
I don't know. I can't speak on that. But I mean, you guys, if we're gonna stand together, we have to stand together educated. You don't have to go out and do all the research, but we do have to understand what is coming against our kids, what is coming against the culture. How do we have these conversations from an educated position to be able to stand firm, to know how to vote, to empower the people who sit in our pews and say, look, this is what's coming.
Oh, I stand corrected. Trimera says he is being prosecuted. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good to know.
I was about to say that would be very weird. Like, yeah. So this is where we are. The last thing I want to say is, gosh, where did my little thing go? Because I know we're already at overtime.
Yeah, we're over time.
Yeah, only by a minute. Calm down. Did you know they're trying to impeach Clarence Thomas?
What?
I told you this morning.
Why are silly people trying to do that?
It's behind the abortion thing.
There's a petition.
Not abortion thing.
On Move On.
Yes.
So it's real. MoveOn.org. Sign the petition.
Their goal is to raise 1.2 million signatures. In the last week, they've gotten just about, I would think it's 800,000.
Oh, it's up to a million one.
Right now. So their goal is 1.2 million.
We're almost there.
Yeah. So it's so funny because when I read through some of people's comments, they were like, the government shouldn't be in these decisions. It's my body. And I'm like, well, if you think this all the way through, then the government shouldn't have been in your decision, 50 years ago either. All we're doing is going back to the way it was.
I have so many thoughts about that. Clarence Thomas is a hero, Mel says.
So
he's certainly a very smart man. I think he will go down in history as being one of the most influential thinkers of the last part of the 20th century, early 21st century. I mean, I think history will say that Clarence Thomas is an important figure, an important intellectual, but we'll see.
So there is that, everyone. You guys, pray for one another. Yeah. You guys, the body of Christ, we need prayer, y'all. We need to pray for one another. Pray for the body.
I think what I'm seeing that concerns me is, we really need you guys to be out there having the conversations. So many people, they don't follow the ministry, but you guys know these people. You're out there in your sphere of influence. And I know sometimes it feels like you're not getting anywhere in the conversation, but we need to do whatever we can to raise the alarm bells for other parents so that they can get engaged in what is happening to their kids in school. And we need churches to be providing alternatives. So don't stop the emotions of just feeling hopeless. Try to begin to think imaginatively about how you can get empowered to really make a difference. And I'm going to drop a podcast on Monday about one guy who's doing what he can to make a difference in young people's lives. Recorded that today. And we hang in there and don't just spend all your energy criticizing and being on social media and everything. Also make sure that you're spending the same energy with doing something to really make a difference and be salt and light and push back against some of these things.
Someone has a question, and I think that it's so good. I'm going to ask you, Zane. It's not going to show it all, so I'm just going to
Okay.
read it.
All right. Go ahead.
No, can you hide it so then I can read the whole thing?
Okay.
Please, thanks. How do we contextualize the good news of Christ's rescue? Do we live as lifeguards, allowing the drowning swimmer to exhaust themselves with their brokenness until they are ready to see their need for grace, yet holding and living the healthy boundaries that God has set for us? What are your thoughts on that?
That's good.
It is.
I think being a living, the first step is always being a living epistle. Like, I think more and more Christian families that are true to the historic Christian faith are going to stand out.
Mhm.
You know, that they have a mom and a dad, that they are for having children, that they take responsibility to disciple and educate their children. I think that's going to stand out more and more as weird. Having, you know, single people, you know, too. That's not to leave out single people, but that, you know, that Christians are have a mindset toward community and helping one another, and you know, that we all are in this together. I think that that's always the step one, is how are we orienting ourselves to endure persecution? How are we orienting ourselves to truly living out our faith in an authentic way? I think the other side of the strategy is equipping yourself with the gospel. I'm teaching a class right now on theology, and I'm having all the students write out the gospel, write out a gospel presentation. And they are struggling with how to do it. And it's something that seems so simple, but when you sit down to do it, like, you realize, like, I am not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what we have to do is get ourselves ready, like, know how to share the gospel, know how to talk to a new ager. You know, people are searching for answers
Mm-hmm.
in alternative religions. Equip yourself to know why Christianity offers a better answer.
Yeah.
Know how to talk to a social justice oriented person. That person's probably just longing for real justice, and it's a type of justice that only God can provide.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than putting people down and denigrating them, start to think about them evangelistically, of how am I going to prepare myself to share the gospel with this person. So that's kind of my two-pronged strategy, is know what you're up to with your family, being a living epistle to a different lifestyle choices. I call Christianity the new alternative lifestyle. And then flip the coin over and look at the other side of how am I equipped to evangelize others.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I completely agree with living your life in such a way that your life is a light, and doing that boldly and courageously, and raising kids to be resilient, to be able to take a punch, or to take somebody calling them a name, but they still get back up because they know the truth. They know that Christianity offers a better hope.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to engage the culture, on some of these things, or ask questions, answering questions. Why is Christianity a better hope?
The why question is important.
It is. It's really important.
Otherwise, Christianity is just one of another competing system. We have to be able to make the case about why Christianity is true.
But I think to a degree, you also have to be able to understand what is happening with some of what is happening. You don't have to know everything about everything, but understanding some of what's happening, like with the critical social theories, will help people to see that, no, I do understand what you're talking about, and still Christianity is the better hope.
Yeah. Saturday, in just a couple of days, we're going to be talking to Katie Faust on all the things.
Yes, of them before
us. She's going to talk about doing courageous things for the sake of our children, and it'll be kind of connected to the several pro-life conversations we're going to be having on the show. We did one last week. Like Monique said, we interviewed a OBGYN, about
Dr. Chris.
medical issues. So tune in this week for Katie Faust as we continue those discussions and provoking your thinking in deeper ways and deeper reflections on questions related to life. So
yeah. And pray for us. We are going to be on the road soon, and you'll be gone for just a couple of days. I think I'll be gone for
a fair bit.
A fair bit of days.
Yeah. So we won't have a
yeah.
family meeting for a couple of weeks. After this Saturday, we'll have Katie Faust on all the things, and then we'll be dark for a couple of weeks while Monique's on the road. But then we will be back with more shenanigans.
More shenanigans. We are praying for you guys. We're grateful for you, and we will see you in a couple weeks.